Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Nguyen, and today I'll be presenting my Capstone project, the Human Capital Requirements Tracker. The Human Capital Requirements Tracker is a tool that does a few things. It tracks skill requirements for projects, survey team members for those skill requirements, and track remediations for projects when those skills are not present. It's important to note that this tool is not a project management tool, such as what you would find with Jira and Microsoft Project. So let me give a little bit of background on why I'm doing this. Since the market crash in 2008, banks has been under more pressure to provide proof that they have the appropriate resources to execute on their body of work. Personally, in my experience, I have seen the consequences of when banks cannot execute on fundamental functions. And such consequences has resulted in fines, penalties, reputational harm, and in my case, a cease and desist order from the Federal Reserve. So my solution attempts to solve two problems. First, bring a sustainable process with handling data. This is data relating to projects and skills. Now, this may seem trivial, but in my experience in the industry that I work in, this is a difficult problem to solve. Secondly, comply with the Federal Reserve guidance around having qualified and trained personnel and resources. When we can implement and use technology correctly, we can help actually reduce the regulatory burden and shift resources within the bank from performing regulatory tasks to perform something that's more value added to the bank. So let's take a look at how most of the times banks handle data, at least internally. So that process can look like I email a form to a person where I want to solicit data from. And that form can be in the format of email, a Word document, or an Excel document. Whatever that form is, it's emailed back to me, and then I would have to aggregate those results in something such as Word, Excel, most likely Excel document, and I have to aggregate those results on top of other results that I'll be receiving in the future. So what's wrong with this? We can already see that this type of workflow is mostly spent on manual processing and collection of data. And also in my experience, when you have a lot of manual processes that's involved, you can introduce a lot of opportunities for errors. So first I need to implement a more scalable process to remove much of the human intervention that is involved in the collection and processing data in order to reach my target state. Secondly, I need to show value to the stakeholders that I can reduce the regulatory burden associated with evidencing that we have the qualified and trained personnel and resources. So my goal in a nutshell, that is to provide more insight on skills. This will help the banks understand their own talent, and this would also help banks to maximize the talent that they already have. Additionally, this will provide evidence to regulators that we are thinking about talent and human resources in order to effectively execute on our body of work. So the minimal viable product, if you can see on the left-hand side, those workflows, these are the same workflows that's being practiced today. However, I want to address them in a manner that does not rely on manual tasks. And in order to achieve these things, these workflows, in the manner that I want them to be achieved, I need a few things. I need to reach out to our users via web browser, so I need to create a web interface. I need to store data inputs onto a database. And I need to have a server that can communicate back and forth between the browser client and the database. In addition to that, I need user authentication for privacy reasons. And I also need to perform UAT testing as I want the solutions to be very approachable and valuable to my users. So with the web interface, I need to design it in a way that it is very approachable. If you look on the screen here, we have two forms, a project form and a skill surveys form. Now these two forms, this is the only manual activities that's involved in this entire workflow. So on the left-hand side, we see a project form which details skill requirements and team member assignments. If you look on the right-hand side, we see a survey that's initiated by the project form, and it simply asks of whether I have a skill or don't have a skill in question. With the database and server, the server is comprised of APIs, and these APIs are comprised of queries that perform CRUD functions. The queries were written in Connects.js. This was done so that the tool is not vendor dependent, as queries are implemented with using JavaScript versus just passing a query in a string. In addition to helping me write queries, Connects.js has also helped me to develop and migrate schema and perform data seeding. With the database, I have used SQLite as a test database. Most likely that is going to be changed once this tool is implemented in a production environment. With user authentication, so the site can only be accessed if two things are true. First, you have to have a Google account to log in, and secondly, an admin has to add you as a user. Now, the reason for user authentication is for privacy reasons, so that users can only have access to their own surveys, and users do not have access to other user surveys. So this is very important so that users can answer these surveys correctly. The thing I wanted to avoid is having these surveys available publicly to each other. That might cause a lot of false answers to their surveys, as users feel like they have to prove that they have a skill to each other. So we want to avoid that. We want to keep these surveys private. User acceptance testing. This was a lot of fun. I have these approaches I have learned from David Platt's user experience engineering class. So I've created two personas based on two different primary user types. These user types are based on actual roles in the department I work in. One is a manager and one is the head deputy of my department. Both of the test users fitted their personas as expected. I have known both of these guys for quite some time. Where the manager in this case was very tech focused and the deputy was very tech aware, but not too tech focused. His primary concern was about his business. With the feedback that I have received during UAT, I have noted that as issues in the Git repository, and I have addressed all of those issues with the exception of one based on what I've learned during UAT. So outcomes. How was the goal achieved? What goal was achieved? Well, the process is now scalable and requires little and minimal manual effort. The only manual effort or human intervention that's required is users filling out a project form and a skill surveys form. So I've replaced all manual efforts around data aggregation and processing. If you see on the screen, this is data processing, where data is transformed in something that is more consumable, such as charts and graphs. This leads to another outcome, which is on-demand reporting. So for regulators and for management, this is really nice. So when regulators do unexpectedly visit us, we can print out a report or show them a report on demand, which is a lot better than our current processes that requires a lot of manual effort. So the final product was a web application that has only fulfilled its initial goals and its requirements, as we said in the beginning, but it also had provided business intelligence around the demand and supply of skills. So that outcome was something that was unexpected, and the benefit of that was discovered during UAT testing with the deputy head. So he had really enjoyed the tables that you see on the right-hand side of the slide, where you see the demand of skills and supply of skills. When the demand is greater than supply, perhaps the deputy head has to go out and go hiring so he doesn't overpay for talent. Or train professionals or associates on the floor so they can have the appropriate skills to execute on current and future projects as well. Lessons learned. So I started this project using LAMP with Laravel, with Bootstrap as well. And what I had quickly figured out is that the code base began to look very big during its initial development. So that's when I had switched from using a LAMP method to Node.js and React.js, and that had significantly impacted the amount of code that I had to write. Also, not all Node packages are the same quality. This is in regards to the documentation that's provided to understand and implement the packages. And also, this is like where packages didn't work as intended. So when you visit NPM and look at the packages, take a look at the documentation, take a look at the number of times it has been downloaded for the past week or so. That shall give you a hint of whether a package is popular, and if it's popular, in my opinion, it would most likely function as intended and have great documentation. Third, it helps to be knowledgeable in SQL. So my APIs were probably made of queries, and if I didn't understand how to write queries, which I thought I did at the beginning, but once I dug into more complex queries, I figured, hey, I'm not as great in SQL as I thought. So it helps to understand SQL in this case, the many-to-many relationships that's involved with my data. Also, very, very important, you want to understand and over-communicate to the business. When you do this, they feel like they are part of the project, that they are contributing to the project, and they own a part of this, and that's very important to these guys, getting buy-in within the institution, they say. Well, that is it. Thank you very much to the entire Capstone class, especially the Harvard staff that helped me along the way. I appreciate all of you guys for sharing and reaching out to me, and also appreciate the staff for allowing me to reach out to them. Until next time, I'll see everyone in the future. Goodbye.